Now, my question is, a lot of the tools that we have, the sensors, might not be the most accurate. You're working with a lot of providers. Some of them are very good, like Garmin, but we have also probably, or perhaps other future customers who are using less detailed sensors. If I may summarize what you just mentioned, is that you measure and obtain a lot of data from people properly through your own sensors and machines, and you do that in detail. You obtain all the data, and you turn that into basically a data set that you can use to compare with future data that you capture from the client's sensors, which might not be the most accurate or complete, but then you can compare it to the ones you have, and then you can complete that. Is that a correct understanding?
Yeah, perfect. There's a few stages in the process until you get a commercial product. When Eurobrave publish a commercial product, it means that we have a biomarker that track a cognitive or emotional state in real time in at least 85% accuracy for it to be commercial. That is, by the way, a lot of the contrast between commercial and academic research. Usually in academic research, again, there's a lot of them, so I don't want, to disrespect something, but mostly, if you want to publish an article, then usually you get to like 70%, it's good enough. You say, okay, I see something over here, and that's enough. I did my job. From the 70% to 80, 85, 90%, that's a really, really, really difficult problem. Like you see, by the way, autonomous driving, this kind of thing. To get to the part where it's good enough to be commercial, that's the difficult part. Most of the times, of course, you need to do the whole thing. So in order to do, there's a process. So yes, the first part is that we collect the data, we label it, also medical grade data and research grade data, but we also measure in the same time from those wearable devices. So we have a correlation model that can compare all the time the noisy, disrupted bad data, right, that you have from the consumer device, and the reliable data that measure from the medical device. So first of all, you need to do those things. And then there's a lot of DSP, signal processing algorithms that need to take the bad data and make and find the good data inside, and a lot of things you need to do. Also machine learning, we actually on a complementary way together with the DSP. Again, that's a lot of RIP, but this is what we do also. And then you get to the point where you have a model and you need to test it and validate it, right? Who knows who said it's actually right? We do a lot of testing from the technical point of view, or like Google does for convolutional networks. But we're talking about humans and how they react and how they feel and how they think. It's not that simple like dogs and cats. And then you need to validate it. So there's another process over there that you need, like sending people with the watch or with the device and just live your life and answer questionnaires and, run all kind of small tests. And then you make sure that it's good enough. If it's not good enough, you go back and you iterate until it's good enough. This is basically what we do. And a lot of the smartness here is to use different types of data or different types of experience that we have labeled on our data set and create a new type of experience. We use generative AI and a lot of very advanced algorithms because at the end, one of our mission is to map the entire human experience. All right, think about it. You have a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings, a lot of cognitive states that you are in, and some of them are easy to test, like, excitement, all right, and can let you play computer games and ask you all the time, are you enjoying it? Are you enjoying it? And you can say, yeah, 1 to 5, 1 to 5, 1 to 5. Okay, that's pretty easy. Let's call it like this. But how do I measure fear? All right, I cannot scare you. That's unethical and very complicated to do. We don't want to scare people, but we still want a very, let's call, distress situation, because we want to give alerts. Maybe someone is experience harassment, or maybe someone is in danger and you need to send a dispatch, a police officer, to help them. So there's a lot of value in business you need to do, but you need to go through cognitive and emotional states that are not very easy to measure, or we think it's impossible. By the way, you have excellent research lab over here, even in Reichman, that has the ability, the infrastructure, the machines, to reliably and ethically cause, let's call it, pain or fear, and measure the physiology. But this is done in a very, very controlled environment, and again, we cannot take it to the outside world. So there's a lot of smartness over here, but basically think about it. You have 2 points. Think about a space of experience. You have 2 points. Over here you have a lot of data. a lot of high quality, high resolution label data. This is what NeuroBrave does, and over here, and you need something in the middle.
Right.
So you need an algorithm to basically create it in the way, and it's a lot of IP, so I won't go there. But eventually, what we want to do is through relatively simple sensors and simple wearable devices or consumer grade devices to give people a full understanding of their experience and emotional experience.
Quick question. I think data such as anxiety, happiness, and everyday emotions are quite mapped and quite rich in data we have in this current time. However, things like, for example, like you said, if people was being harassed or people were in a car accident, do you see a possibility in the future where legal and the technical world works together in a way that people who are in those situations, who happen to wear devices that monitor their inner states, could upload and obviously anonymously, donate their data for future usage so that we can use that for the benefit of the future?
Well, it's a nice idea. I don't know, it might happen. It needs to be very structured. Like you need Apple to have a product for you, for Apple user, for Apple Watch user, for example, Apple Watch users, for example, that every time you have like a significant experience, you need to label it or you need to do something in order for the data to be, there's a problem with that. Problem, by the way, that this is why in NeuroBrave we do this process. This is why we first measure the experience in a very controlled environment where we can label the data, because after that, when you're in the real world, the data from the watch or everything else, because nobody knows what happened or what experience you had, how you felt, it's useless. Like it's just, physiology data or accelerometers and these kind of things.
But you do need to label it, what happened there, right?
Exactly. So this is, by the way, when we're talking also with customers and investors and researchers and partners and everything, we explain that part because, they say, but Apple and Samsung, they have, all the data in the world they can want from smartwatches, for example. The thing is, it's not labeled. And it's useless. Now, of course, you can do a lot of things with AI, and you can look for, clusters and stuff like that. But it's very, very far away from providing reliable information.
Yeah. You can assume things with AI, but I guess it's still far from being reliable. Yeah. I guess that leads me to my next question. I watched this movie again. A movie nerd, guilty as charged. Okay. Avatar. Not the one with air fire, but with the blue guys who went to Pandora. In the mission, they record themselves talking to a computer. These are soldiers, explorers, right? They talk to the computer, basically talking about their day. And this provides two things. It helps the actual person who was reporting to the camera what their physiological and psychological status and experience is throughout that day. But also it reports to the system and, of course, the command base how their soldiers are doing. And also this is, I think, in the movie Interstellar, where they talk to the camera and just report themselves. I don't know if it was there, but I think they should have one. But have you ever thought of capturing first-party data? Obviously, the sense is first party, but it's not something the user actually report actively, consciously. It's something that's measured passively. Have you ever thought of allowing the users to also record a voice, journaling about their day? Because for me, I like to journal and I write down basically today's date and then what happened. I'm a journal nerd and I can see 3 years back from now what I feel and experience and think about in June 12th of 2021. That's the fun thing about journaling. And then you can basically look back on not just what you did. You can see that in the calendar, but you can also see how you feel and think in that date and time. Have you thought of combining those two? So you have the sensors in your body monitoring internally, but also you have actively the user reporting back. So this is basically like labeling the data.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, I don't see a lot of people doing what you're doing. That's very unique. People are usually, they have their day-to-day lives.
They're busy.
And I think you're lucky that your hobbies and what you like to do is you can implement it in your way of basically of your life and your work. But I don't see many people record themselves and doing this kind of thing day after day after day. You really need to be passionate about it. But if they do, I have to say that we are very We are very customer focused, I think. Like we learn every day so we're a B2B company, so we're not selling directly to consumers, but we still like a B2B to consumers and employees. They're the end users of what we do.
Right.
We don't see their data, we don't need their data, we don't have access to these kind of things. We're a GDPR compliant company, but we do, we're thinking about them all the time. People don't want to work for their technology. People don't want to work for companies providing them value. They pay a subscription and they anticipate they need to get the service and they need. So I don't think I can give you an example. All right, although Google invested in us, so I'm going to say really like not a bad thing about Fitbit, but mentioning what they're doing. So they have like on Fitbit Sense and Sense 2, it's a specific watch. They have electrodermal activity sensor, like the skin conductivity. This is what they do. It's on the bottom part or the upper part of the watch. And they're actually asking people like, okay, try to calm down, put your hand because it needs to measure, and then tell us how you feel. People don't do that. Like they do it because it's a nice gimmick. But, and then I don't want to work for Fitbit. Like I pay that $200, $300 for the watch. I want them to work for me. So this is like a point of view of most of consumers. And by the way, because of that, we don't use consumers' data. We don't use the end user data. First of all, we don't want access. Like we build a very, very private and secured system. So from the beginning of the company, we said, okay, what we're going to do with all the privacy issue, because it's super important, especially for US consumers. So we're only building on our own data set of people that came, and of course we paid them a little bit and they were okay and consent to give their data, and not our customers' users or the end user. They're like completely free. Their data is not stored anywhere and we don't need it. So this is like a very unique pipeline also. But if you can scale people to label the data for you, then it's very powerful. Very, very powerful. You can get to millions of people reporting on their feelings while you measuring physiology or neurology. That's amazing. I don't see how you can convince them to do that. Maybe pay them a lot of money. I have no idea. Yeah.
Right. I guess, the point is it's a lot of work to do that unless you actually want to do it like I do.